Okay, we're gonna try this again. This is probably like take 10, and I don't know why it's being so difficult today, but it is. And then my dog wanted it because I only had one of them in here. So, my name is Echo, and I'm coming to you from Montana, where I live with my husband and my dogs. This is the Knitted Bean Podcast. The Knitted Bean is a nitty, nerdy, sometimes sweary podcast with a side order of fanfic recommendation at the end. If you're not interested in the fan fiction, that's okay. You can skip that part. Nobody will have any hard feelings. So I've noticed that in the last 2 weeks, I have picked up a good chunk of new viewers, and I want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to have you, whether you're just here for what's going forward or whether you've gone through and watched some of my very short back catalog. I also want to say thank you to my returning viewers who've been here with me for 5 or 10 or 12 episodes as well. I love you all the same. I have no favorite children. So today I am not drinking out of a snarky cup at all, just a fun favorite cup that I have that has a bunch of owls on it that I got at TJ Maxx quite possibly 20 years ago. A long time ago. I don't remember how long ago. I am drinking some tea that I got from my favorite tea company, which is Lake Missoula Teas in Missoula, Montana. They source all of their teas from Africa or China or wherever very consciously. They put a lot of thought and effort into what farms they buy from, and they consistently buy from the same farm. And they just have really good tea. Like, they make really good blends, they buy really good quality, and I always enjoy the things that I get there for the most part. So this is called Honey Ponderosa, which is a black tea with bee pollen, and I feel like it has some pine needles or something in it. I don't know. What I do know is it's good. So I made a pot of that. Even though it's really hot outside, I was just excited because I finally got some more tea in. So I am drinking that. This is episode 13, and today is the 18th of July. So I'm recording the day before I post, which is not as good as Friday like normal, but better than trying to do it all in one day. My lungs are feeling a little bit better. They're still not fully recovered from missing my meds for quite so long. And it's really incredibly smoky here. I will try and put some pictures over the whole thing at the end of just the smoke in the area. There's a lot of wildfires around here, and we just are really thick with smoke right now, so that's not helping either. So it's been really hot, hence why we have such a high fire danger. It's been around 104, 107 here, which this is now heading into a time when that kind of weather is normal for us. Usually it's like August. The first week of August is always about this hot. So we're only a couple weeks ahead of schedule now. And that's about 41 degrees Celsius. So we have AC, etc. We're used to it. I still don't like it. It doesn't help with the smoke at all. It doesn't help with the fires because it's really dry here as well. And so we have thunderstorms, and then we have wildfires. Max, go sleep. Granny's asleep. She go sleep. She wanted in so bad, and now she's like, oh, just let me dig a hole in the blanket. I need to make a nest. So that is what I'm drinking and what the weather's like, and just generally what's up. It's been a little less than 2 weeks this time because I recorded late last time. So I do have significantly less to show, but I still have stuff. I have one iPhone, a couple of whips that I'm working on, one big whip, one small whip, and some other stuff. So let's jump into it. I'm looking over here because that's where my computer is sitting with my podcast notes. So my first FO is just, it's a really simple pair of shorty socks. My typical Fish Lips Kiss Heel my typical wedge toe. These are really loose on my blockers because I wore them and I've stretched them out. But this is a June Farmer's Daughters Sock Squad colorway that was called Summer Sorbet. And it's just like, I think I described it as hunter orange, highlighter yellow, and acid green, but it really is very summery. I debated if I wanted to use the orange with it, but in the end, I did use the orange for the heels, and I'm glad I did. They came out really bright. And I have like 2 pairs of super orange socks like this. And orange isn't a color that I'm like in love with or wear, but I seem to really like it on my feet, so I have a lot of it going on. So they're just real true shorties. There's like, I think 7 rows between the heel and the cuff. And I did a 3x1 rib for the cuff just because I wanted something a little bit decorative. So those were my June Farmer's Daughter Sock Squad. Also, I was going to mention, because I always see like in videos, if people are like, you know, they put their every 10 rows or whatever, they put little light bulb stitch markers to count their rows to make sure they get their foot right every time, or same thing for the rows on their leg. I don't do that. I couldn't even tell you how many rows are in this foot. What I can tell you is that from the tip of the toe to where I start my heel is the length of my foot minus 2 inches, and then 3/4 of an inch for ease, because I like my socks tight. They stretch out over time and I don't want them loose later. So a lot of places will recommend 1/2 inch for ease in length, and I over time have found that eventually stretches out to be a little looser than I like, so I've upped it. So when I first put socks on, they do kind of slip down my heel a little bit. I'm okay with that because after 2 wears, that heel will fit perfectly, and then 20 wears down the road, it won't be too loose. So I just take the length of, and I do this if I'm making socks for anybody else, so that's why I say I don't give a number. I just say the length of the foot minus 2 inches for a short row heel, whether I'm doing like a German short row heel or a Fish Lips Kiss short row heel or anything, and I always do short row heels. And then I take off 3/4 of an inch for ease. So if I take my whole foot and my foot is, say, 8 3/4 inches, I'm going to take off 2 3/4 inches, 2 inches for the heel, 3/4 for the ease, and I'm going to knit from toe to where I start my heel will be 6 inches. Because the thing of it is that even though I always knit on a 9-inch circular with a 0, my row gauge is still going to be different depending on which yarn I use, because a 75-25 knits differently than a high twist 2-ply, knits differently than an 80-20, knits differently than a Corriedale sock. So if I just were to count those rows, and I don't know, say I knit 60 rows, that I have no idea, but just throw that number out there. Say I knit 60 rows. A toe plus 60 rows in all 4 of the different sock yarns that I tend to use like blend wise is going to be a little bit different in length. So I don't do that. I just measure it. I really want to get one of those sock rulers because right now I just use a tape measure, and I think the sock ruler would be really handy. The only place that I count rows is if I'm doing a shorty between the heel and the cuff, because it's such a small space that it's easy for me to just say, oh, I'm just going to do 5 rows. I'm going to do 7. I'm going to do 10, and know that it's the exact same length for the other one. And then I do count rows for my cuffs to make sure that my cuffs are the same length. But like if I'm making a crew sock for somebody else, I don't tend to like crew socks, but if I'm making them for somebody else, I don't do that. What I do is, let me show you a pair. And these were a pattern that I followed, so I don't know that they'll perfectly match up this way versus a vanilla, but oh yeah, they kind of do. What I do is I fold them in half at the heel. And these are a little shorter because, like I said, I was following someone's pattern, but what I do is I typically knit the leg as long as I want it to be, and then finish off with as long as I want the cuff to be, until the cuff plus the leg equals the same length as the foot plus the toe, so that they're equal. And that's always worked out well for me. When I send gift socks, I've never gotten any complaints about them. You know, if somebody tells me like, I want a really tall crew sock, then I would knit longer than that. If somebody says, oh, I want kind of like a mini crew, then I would knit shorter than that. So that is how I measure my socks. No row counting involved. So, I mean, I guess it's possible I have 60 rows in one and 61 rows in the other, but they're the same length on my tape measure, so it doesn't really matter. The point being, gauge changes. And I don't want to get one pair of socks that I knit the same way as another pair of socks and have one of them be 1/4 of an inch tighter. So, that is my only FO. Like I said, it's only been like a week and a half since I recorded, so I don't have quite as much. So I do have 2 whips though. My first whip is another pair of socks. This is a pair that I'm knitting for a friend, and it is living in my Fat Squirrel Fibers bag. I had to think about that for a second, if it was fibers or Fat Squirrel makes, or I think it's Fat Squirrel Fibers. So this is just made out of 2 things that I had hanging around left over in my stash. One is some Blue Barn Fibers. It was like rain over the Aspen Mountains, I think. Rain clouds over Aspen Lake. And it's a BFL silk blend. I don't know the exact percentage because they don't currently sell that, and I didn't save the tag, but I do remember that it was either like 45-55 or 50-50. So it's like a half and half almost. And then that's for my heels, toes, and cuffs. And then the rest of the sock is made out, oh, that's coming out a little brighter than it really is. It's a little bit more gold than yellow. There we go. So this is the Bee's Knees Fiber Seed Sock, Sprout Sock. Tuck this back in here. Hello, I realized I just used my boobs as a shelf. Welcome to my life. Big breasty women, we use our boobs as shelves, and we just totally don't even think about it. So I am making the Wild Bee Socks by Helen Stewart out of the Handmade Sock Society 4. And I have my, it's hanging upside down because I'm knitting this cuff down despite not loving it. I have my Adore Knits little cactus stitch marker on there, or progress keeper on there. So I'm really enjoying it. It's coming out really cute now. I say now because I ripped out the whole first bee. Actually, maybe even the first bee and a half. Because I can never do a knit two together right. Okay, now this is not that I don't know how to do a knit two together right. I do. This is like a mental problem for me where I know there's a trick to making your decreases look nice. And for some reason, when I learned that trick, I got hung up on, and tell me if you've heard this before, that your decrease looks better if you, when you do your knit two together, you do it through the back loop. Okay, and now that may work on plain stockinette or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't work in lace. So I'm knitting the bee and I'm going, well, this looks like a wing and it shows all the pretty little eyelets here, and this side looked like shit, frankly. I wish I had taken a picture of it. There were no eyelets. I mean, it had eyelets, but they were covered up by this weird twisty cabley looking thing of twisted stitches because I was knitting through the back loop. And what does knitting through the back loop do? It twists your stitch. And so I think the actual trick for making the decrease look good is you knit through the back loop, which twists the stitch, and then when you come back around, you knit through the back loop again to untwist it or something, and it makes it lay flatter for some reason. I don't know. I don't actually do it, but I heard the trick, and so now in my head, when I get tired, knit through the back, or knit two together, to me means knit two together through the back loop. So I did a whole B and a half where all of my knit two togethers were knit two together through the back loop. And I'm like, why does one side not match the other? What? I'm on Ravelry and I'm looking at everybody else's and nobody else has this problem. And I put it away for the day. I got up the next day. I still have this problem. I put it away for the day. I got up the next day and I just woke up one morning and I was like, well, why am I knitting all my knit two togethers through the back loop? No wonder it looks stupid, Echo. At that point, I had to rip out a B and a half because I'd been trying all these different things trying to make it look better. So I ripped it out all the way up to the cuff and knit back down. Perfect. Now that I stopped doing that. Long story short, if your decreases look funny, make sure that you are knitting properly through the front or the back. So, that's not the only time I've done that on a sock. I've definitely done that multiple times. It's just usually not quite so obvious as it was in this one. So those are the Wild Bee socks by Helen Stewart. My other FO is my big FO. Which is living in my only big bag, which I still love. That is my Fucking Bunnies bag from Naughty Knitties. Let's try that again. From Naughty Knitting Sacks. You can find her on Etsy. Not everything she sells is naughty, but she does have some really entertaining stuff. So on the outside it's all cute, and on the inside it has her logo and some Kama Sutra bunnies. So this project is being made. See if I can get my yarn out without making a hot mess. Out of, can never remember the name of this. It's Illimani Sabri. So it's cotton. Come on, computer. So it's cotton and baby alpaca. And it's so glorious. I'm getting hot because I'm drinking hot tea and I've got lights on and it's like 100 degrees outside. So that is 85% cotton, 15% baby alpaca, and I don't like knitting with cotton because we all know it's rough on our hands, but even just the 15% baby alpaca is, it's so good. So good. I love it to death. It's amazing. It's so soft. I could knit anything out of this. I'm hoping that it will be not too warm for, like, obviously not the 105 days, but like not too warm for some summer days. We'll see. Then the other yarn is this glorious ball of love from Dustman Chaff that I got in a, oh, I don't know, it was like a 45 euro grab bag that I ordered that was like, you will get 300 to 400 grams of yarn in some format. It could be anything. It could be any color. It's gonna be like a lot of one-of-a-kinds. It's gonna be a lot of like test skeins and things like that. So it has no colorway. It's just a one-of-a-kind. It's the Vega blend, which is 70% alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere, and it's a lace weight, and it is, again, softer than a baby's ass. And it comes off this like really muddy red brown, like clay brown red color in the skein, but when you knit it up and it has some air in between it, it comes out really rust colored, which I really enjoy. So what I'm knitting with it is a diaphanous raglan by Jessie Made Designs. And that's gonna be hard to show because, let me put some, let's be smart about this. Let's put some stoppers on the end of my needles before I lose an ass ton of lace stitches. Okay. It's gonna be kind of hard to show just because a lot of it is knit and stockinette. Really all of it's knit and stockinette. And so it's gonna curl, but see if we can get it at least a little bit straightened out to show you. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. It is a raglan style tee where the sleeves are only in the lace. And they look amazing and they're super comfortable. So the original pattern, I believe, is knit with mohair and either a single or applied fingering. But essentially she says you can knit this with any fingering and lace. Or if you don't want see-through sleeves, you could just knit the whole thing in like a lace and a fingering held double, or even just a solid DK if you can get gauge. The pattern is so versatile, which I know I've said a pattern is versatile before, but like if I was gonna have to pick a trait in a pattern that makes me want to buy it, versatility is definitely the one, because I am happy to pay you $12 for your pattern if I can make it in a couple different forms. And yeah, I can definitely like buy a pattern and then I can modify it myself and say, oh, that's a crop, but I'd like to knit it long. Or that's a long sleeve sweater, but I'd like to have it short. Okay. But here's the thing, if as a designer you go just 2 steps further and you say you can have these 2 sleeve options or these 5 sleeve options, You can knit it at this length or at this length. You can have shaping or you cannot have shaping. My chances of wanting to pay $6 versus $12 or $15 for that immediately skyrocket, because that's not me making one sweater. That's me making a shirt, a sweater, and a crop top. Which, I mean, I'm not gonna make a crop top, but you get the idea. So like with the baby romper duo pattern that I bought the other day, okay, I could buy a pattern for a romper that is unisex, or you could buy a pattern for a romper that's unisex but also has finishing details that I could add that make it really feminine if in particular mom is like really into frilly clothes, or I could cross the straps in the back, or I could not, or I could hook the buttons in the front, or I could not. Like, given the choice between buying that pattern and buying just a plain unisex baby romper pattern that says this is how it's knit, if you want to change it on your own, I'm always going to go for that versatile pattern. You know, does that make sense? And I'm always going to be like, yeah, that's worth $12. That's worth $15, you know, because I'm going to use it more than once. I will definitely make another one of these. It won't look anything like this. People will think, wow, that's two different patterns, because I can make it long sleeved. I can make it short sleeved. When you buy the diaphanous raglan pattern, it comes with cap sleeve, flutter sleeve, ruffle sleeve, bell sleeve, and like the just long open sleeve. So like 5 sleeve options, maybe 6. You might be able to do the like a straight sleeve with a cuff too. And it's cropped, but it has instructions for how much yarn you will need per inch extra you want to add. So I'm able to say, I don't want to make this cropped, I want to make it 6 inches longer, and I can just read my pattern and say that means I need to make sure I have this much extra yarn. I don't have to do that math. Jessie Maid already did it. It's got boxy shape or waist shaping. So you can make, if you mix and match all of that, you can make like 15 different sweaters with it, you know? I look at that like, wow, that's an amazing deal. That's $1 a pattern for 15 different sweaters, you know, kind of thing, instead of being like, oh man, that pattern is like $12. So a versatile pattern is something that's always gonna like grab my attention really hard as a knitter. So that said, the pattern is $12. She does have a choose what you pay option. So she has a couple codes below that allow you to bring the price down if you are like not in a financial place to pay $12. That said, the one thing that I will say is this is not a beginner pattern. I think a lot of her patterns are, because I've seen a lot of beginners knit like a lot of her camisoles and stuff. My camera hit 30 minutes and I was like, we're done. So what I was saying is, you know, I would of course pick a pattern that's much more difficult. It's not like difficult, but it is not a beginner pattern. It's definitely intermediate. You are working with 3 balls of yarn, at least for half of the sweater, and the way that it's designed is, I would call it fiddly as fuck. So it requires paying a lot of attention, having space so that you can organize your shit and keep it in order, and it's not uncomplicated. And here goes Lex jumping off the bed. Small dog problems, the bed's too high. Anyway, I am in love with it. I have tried it on. It does fit. I'm doing what would be like a 2X. And I think that's like a size, let me look. Oh yeah, she just has them labeled like extra small, small, medium, large. So I'm doing the 2X, which I still feel like I feel like I typically measure at a 3X because of my bust, but a 2X always fits better. And this pattern says like if you are on the line, size down. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. It puts me on, I think, the very shorter end of the amount of recommended ease, but it fits. When I put it on, I was like, oh no, this is plenty roomy. So my plans for the one that I am doing, I'm either gonna do a cap sleeve, most likely, or maybe a flutter sleeve. And then I'm gonna make it longer because I don't really do crops. I don't own any high-waisted jeans really. And I only own like 2 pairs of like nice, you know, back in the day we would have called them like stretch pants in the 80s. I don't know what the proper term for them now is, like leggings. I only own like 2 pairs of those that are nice, like that I would wear out of the house. And I don't want to be limited to just wearing it with those. I don't like to wear skirts because I'm fat and my legs rub together, and I know they make like a silica gel that you can put on them called anti-chafing something. I call it Chub Rub. But and I'll use it like for if I have to go to somebody's wedding or something and I want to wear a dress to that, I'll use it. But like day to day, I could go years without wearing a skirt, and it doesn't bother me at all. And I'm not going to go buy new pants just to wear with a crop top. So I wanted to make sure that I made a shirt that fit the majority of the wardrobe that I already have, which is like regular waisted jeans. So I am gonna make it longer. I'm not gonna make it like a real long, like halfway down my butt thing, but you know, like a couple 3 inches maybe past my natural waist so that it like sits at the top of my hips. I am doing the waist shaping on it, which the waist shaping on it is just straight in because it is, of course, designed as a crop. I will probably go ahead and do waist shaping out as an A-line because I am an A-line shape, and like my cardigan has A-line shaping and I love that. So I know I'm a curvy girl, I'll do that. And that's about it. Like I'm pretty much following the pattern. I might have knit just a little bit longer after the sleeve split before I started the decreases, just because I kind of know how my boobs fit and how other garments have fit me. But all in all, like I'm super happy with the pattern. It's super well written. It's just, she did a great job on it. It is a complicated like knit, but it's fun. It's a nice little challenge. It's like, it's no more complicated than say like steeking or something like that. Like it's an intermediate thing. You can do it if you're real brave. If you're a newbie and you're real brave, give it a go. But if you're an intermediate knitter, jump right in there. So what I was saying before was, it was designed to be knit like with mohair on the sleeves, but I just wanted to use up some stuff in stash, and I had that Vega lace from Das Mannschaft, which was like 800 meters of lace, and I was like, what am I going to use 800 meters of lace for? Like, I mean, I guess I could make like a really nice lace shawl, but I'm not really the kind of person who's going to wear a lace shawl. Like, I like shawls that are like can keep me warm in winter, or shawls that are like substantial enough to keep me from getting a sunburn in the summer. And plus the color just didn't, it's like this rust color, and I'm like, you wouldn't be able to, like, it's not really a neutral. And so I was like, it just doesn't really strike me as a shawl kind of thing. And then I was like, well, I could hold it with something, but then I also kind of lose a bit of the rust color. So I saw this on Fiber for the People, and Taylor was knitting one, and I was like, ooh, you know, it says you could use like any kind of lace to like play with it and mess around. So I wonder if I could use that lace. It's just not going to be like quite as hairy because even though it's got some alpaca in it, it's not like super fluff. It's not fluffy like alpaca. It's not fluffy like this kind of alpaca. So I was like, it's definitely a plied yarn. So it's coming out really good. Like when you first knit it up, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like netting, you know? But once you get a few rows going, it starts to like get that knitted cohesiveness going, and it looks good. I like it. So I'm excited. I bet I have that finished by next time, or at least like the body finished and I'm just doing the finishing. Do you ever just feel really disjointed when you're recording? Because that's how I feel today. And I don't really know why. Like everything is getting recorded in little clips instead of usually I do kind of one big old thing. Okay, so I guess that takes us to acquisitions since I don't have any other actual knitting to talk about. I think I only have 2. So let's talk about the basic one first. Some Berroco Vintage, because I like Berroco Vintage. I will admit it. Stuff is like $9 a skein, and it's very squishy. It's medium soft. I mean, it's nothing like that ooey gooey alpaca, cashmere, silk, cotton, you know, t-shirt that I'm knitting, but it's wool, acrylic, a nylon blend, like 52 acrylic, 40% wool, 8% nylon. And it's just like a nice sturdy DK worsted somewhere in there. I think this is worsted that I grabbed. Yeah, a 4 weight worsted, and it's good for, you know, hats and sweaters and all that jazz. And I have a hat that I need to knit for somebody for Christmas that has a bunch of cable work on it, and I have been looking and looking and looking for a good charcoal gray yarn that would hold up and hold its shape, and also like make the cables pop pretty well. I just wasn't finding anything. I mean, I have good charcoal gray yarns, but they're like, they have some alpaca in them or whatever, because I like my camelids. And those just kind of like, with cables. Yak really makes cables stand out well, but finding yak in like a DK weight, worsted weight, was not happening for me. So I just got this at my LYS. And I'm hoping that it rocks the cables. We'll see. I really want to use this for a sweater for my husband. Possibly in this same color. Although one thing I'm not sold on is I kind of want to make him a fingering weight sweater. So I wish that this was fingering weight. So we'll add that back into the pile. So that's one. My other budget-friendly acquisition, because I was on a budget, was something new. Also from my LYS, but you can get it online directly from them. Is called KPC Yarns. So this is a cotton merino blend. They come in 50-gram balls. Yeah, it's 70% merino wool, 30% cotton. 50-gram balls, which is 116 meters. And I've never seen this before. It has like this like cotton tag yarn. Why do I keep calling it that? cotton tag fiber, like fabric that's tied around it. And when I went on their website, I was like reading the story of them. I was really surprised to find that the yarn is made in Hong Kong. And that struck me as really interesting because you don't see a lot of like non-acrylic commercial yarns coming out of like mainland China, Hong Kong, like Thailand, like those like Asia and Southeast Asian countries. They don't seem to be putting out like a lot of small batch, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, commercial yarns or indie yarns. And so it was really surprised that that was where it was from. And they had some really cool information on their website, which I'll link their website below, about how like they use this tag ribbon, cotton tag ribbon, specifically so that when you're done with your project, you can clip off this where it says KPC and their logo, and you can fold it over and stitch it in as a tag in your finished project. And it looks super cute when that's done. And how they designed their yarn label to be like a gift tag with room on the inside, so that you could write in who it was to and who it was from and attach it to your knitted gift. And I just was like, this, like so much thought goes into their little packaging. When I saw it, I was just like, oh cute, it looks like an apple with a little leaf. Hee, look at me go. And then when I read up on them, I was like, wow, you know, and they can trace like all of their yarn and fiber back to like where, you know, which sheep did this come from and were they, you know, ethically raised and all of that. And I always love that. So my only thing is it's labeled as a DK. And to me, that doesn't look like a DK. That's it next to a fingering. And that's it next to a DK. I really feel like it's probably more sport weight. So it's something that I would definitely have to gauge swatch with. But it's cotton merino blend, and I am like, this, you know, 50 grams would make a cool small project. If you bought a couple of 50-gram balls, that would make a cool multicolored project, like I don't know, like a blanket or whatever. And when you go on their website, they have some really cute sets, like 6 balls in a box with a set of knitting needles and a crochet hook that fit the size of the yarn, or like 9 balls in a box arranged by colors and color groups. And they're really reasonably priced. This was $6.50. On the website, the gift boxes with 9 colors, I think they ran like 340 or 50 something Hong Kong dollars, which is about 42 or 45 American dollars. So that's like 450 grams of DK solid color yarn for $42. It's really good. So I'm excited. I definitely probably will buy a couple other colors and like make some fun gifts to just stash away for future. And now my back really hurts. I tweaked it wiggling around in my chair. I can't do that. So that's the KPC yarn, and I I've yet to knit with it, but I'm like really enamored with it at the moment. So in the vein of last time, I wanted to talk a little bit about podcasts, because I went on like that big like find new podcast binge because I was just running out of podcasts to watch. A few of the ones that I normally watch, like they kind of slowed down or they haven't recorded in a month or two. And like I voraciously watch podcasts because I am at home, I am disabled, and we don't have cable. I like to have something going on in the background while I knit. And you have Netflix, but you know, there's only so much Netflix. So there were plenty that I found last time, and I didn't want to like overload one episode and mention them all. So I did 3 last time. I'm going to do 3 this time. I'll maybe do 3 next time, and that'll probably run me out of the ones that I found. We'll see. If I find more, I'll keep going. So some of the other new or podcasts that are new to me that I found were A Lefty Knitter with Aquila and her husband. That one cracks me up. I found them a few episodes before their giveaway episode with the creative movie titles. And I found them through Michael, Piece for Piece, which is one of the regular people that I watch. And I watched them and I was like, oh yeah, they're pretty funny, you know. And then I got to the 1,000 subscriber giveaway episode where they were like, come up with a creative movie title inserting this word, and go watch their episodes if you want to see what word. I'm not going to give it away, not because I don't want to say it on my podcast, but because I think that they should get the credit for it. It was so funny, and the comments that people came up with and the movie titles people came up with were just hilarious. So I really love it because Aquila and her husband and their daughter Hayes, like all of them are they're just their normal selves on the internet, and that's the kind of podcast that I really enjoy. You know, the Chevy Rells, the Aquilas, etc. of the internet, who are just like, this is me, and I mean, if you don't like me or if I slightly offend you, oh well. And that's always like kind of been the kind of podcast that I wanted to be. So Aquila's got a sock machine and spins, and her husband dyes yarn, and she knits and she crochets, etc. And so you get like a really wide variety of like crafty things. The sock machine videos are really like chill and relaxing because they have like kind of a little bit of a documentary vibe, which I really enjoy because a lot of times I'll watch documentaries while I knit. Even though like I don't have a sock machine and I'm not learning the technique, I still enjoy learning about Aquila, learning about it. And just really down to earth and fun. So definitely check out Aquila at A Lefty Knitter Podcast. Another one, which only has 2 episodes as of right now, as far as I'm aware, is Lizzie at Hive Knits and Natters. And Lizzie hasn't been knitting like forever and ever, just a few years. She's a doctor, and it's kind of like, it seems like it's a stress relief thing after work for her, which, having worked in the medical field for a long time, I can definitely identify with. Again, down to earth, like, you know, it's a knitting podcast. I need to have a snack. I need to have a drink, and this is what I've knit. But some of the things that really caught me about Lizzie's podcast are like that she's dipping her toes into design, and that the designs that she's coming and ideating and thinking about or coming up with. Can you hear Legs growling in her sleep? She's not gonna do it now. She must have been dreaming about something good. Anyway, the designs that Lizzie comes up with, and they look totally different than things that I see elsewhere. Like, I think of like, oh, if I was gonna design something, it would be kind of like this, right? Like, you find some inspiration in other knitters, and hers just seemed to like pop out of her head, like this raglan design thing that she's got. And I'm like, I really like that. That's super freaking cool. Like, what made you think of doing that? And so like, I really want to watch her and see like where she goes with that, because I would totally do that. The third one I found through Aquila. Sorry, my throat is getting dry and my back is officially like stiffened into one position now. So if you see me like moving funny, that's why. Is Andy the Knittress, and her husband also dyes, has just started dyeing under Hearing Colors Dye Works. And Aquila's is Knitty Bow. And again, she has a sock machine, and she is out of Oregon, which is where I'm originally from, and I like the West Coast vibe. I am all for the just chill, here's who I am, here's what I did, here's like all 15 socks that I knit on my sock machine, and then here's what, you know, I knit by hand, kind of here I am attitude. I love it. She's really into like Beetlejuice and green and purple, which I'm very into green and purple. So I was like, woo, my kind of lady. So those are three that I have seen that I have subscribed to and am religiously now following. So you should come join me in that. I'm gonna have to take a break and see if I can get my back straightened out, because I can't even like move when I talk. It's not working. So I'll be back in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about future knitting. I still have some knitting goals for summer. So I wanted to knit 3 sweaters, and I knit my cardigan, and I'm knitting this diaphanous raglan, which I'm on the fence on if I want to count that as one of my sweaters or not, because it's really not a sweater. It's not long sleeved, and I'm on the fence on if it's something that I will wear during winter or not, like without extra layers. So I am thinking I'm going to wait and try it on and see how warm it is before I decide. But I have a couple of other sweater quantities that I really want to get knit up. I bought them with the intention of knitting them this summer and having them ready for winter. Winter in Montana is October, probably. Like, it's hot all the way through the end of August. I would say at most fall lasts all of September. And by Halloween, there's snow on the ground usually. So I have a sweater quantity of this that I want to knit into a pavement. And I have this that I want to knit into something. I'm not 100% decided yet. I have a couple of ideas. I kind of want like a colored yoke and then gray body, and I've looked at a couple of Vera Valimaki's patterns that I'm really fond of. The problem is that Vera Valimaki's patterns really only go up to 2X. So I do fit into a 2X. The The Fog and Whisper is a 2X that I made, but it's not meant to close. And I'm a little like twitchy on if I would fit into one of her 2X's and have it closed, like, and have enough ease. And I love her patterns, but I really hate to like feed into that cycle of it's okay to only grade a pattern up to a certain size. And then beyond that, somebody else might do it for you. So I would love it if you guys could drop suggestions below for size inclusive patterns that need to go up to at least a 3X and that have like, and I'm not really looking for color work, just like a colored yoke or like a fade or a color block or something of that sort that's going to use a big splash of that red and then gray. And red doesn't have to be on the top. That's just like what I'm thinking. But I need some ideas because I have been sitting on that sweater quantity since Christmas and I still haven't decided what I want to make with it. And my goal is to have 3 sweaters by the time October rolls around, which is only a few more months. And I've got 1, potentially 2, but really kind of not. I'm sure the pavement will go pretty fast, but I need to figure out this other one. And then I will have 3 nice, glorious fingering weight sweaters. I will have met my goal for the year, you know, which was 12 pairs of socks and 3 sweaters, which I think I've knit more than 12 pairs of socks already, but we won't talk about that. And I still like knit one every month. Socks are my jam. So yeah, let me know. Like, if it was you, what would you do? What sweater would you knit with that? It is a, it's Mighty Merino 2.0. So it is just like extra fine, 100% superwash, super soft merino. It's definitely next to skin soft. And then also on top of that, what were your knitting goals for this year and are you hitting them? Let me know below. So that's all I've got for the knitting. I think I can't think of anything else. So let's move on to the fandom if you're hanging around for that. I know I said that I needed to branch out from Witcher, but I didn't yet. I have a whole list on my Trello board of fics that are not Witcher to read through and see about recommending. So I've taken recommendations from all the people that I know that are in other fandoms, and I am like, okay, I'm gonna read these, and then I'm gonna decide what fits for Rex, because I don't mind reading fandom blind, but I just don't have very many reading spoons lately. I did not feel good for literally like a month and a half, and I'm not there yet. So I'm not recommending a single fic. Again, I'm going to recommend a series. The series is called Major Design Flaw, and it's by Unokay on an archive of her own. It is 7 stories rated T to E. It's about 47,000 words total. So it's like the size of a novel. And each one of those 7 is 2 chapters each, except for one. One of them is only a 1-shot. I have it written down as a single shot latte. The pairing is Roach Full Test. So if you're familiar with Witcher, that is essentially like one of the kings and one of his subordinates. Which should give you an idea of what type of what type of fic this is. It's definitely got some power imbalance to it. Sometimes it's unhealthy power imbalance. Sometimes it's not so unhealthy power imbalance. What they're playing at definitely like falls into the category of BDSM, even though they don't call it that. They don't know that's what it is. It's not like, I wouldn't label it as hard kink. It's just a lot of power play and various minor slider kinks. I don't know. Everybody's like kink scale is different. It's really hard to label that. But it's a really great series of fics that is so much about the emotion and the power balance and how you just really can't have a very healthy relationship with somebody who's that far above you or that far below you in a power sense. I love how much work Anoke put into like getting the things inside this fic right, whether it's like what words to use in reference to sex work and like researching that, or like making sure that it's all labeled correctly, or just all of it. Like they really put so much effort into this that you can really tell. It comes out clearly in the fic that this was their baby. They wanted it to come out right. They wanted to portray this relationship in the way that they saw it and get it right. And so it comes out that way. It's really good and I highly recommend it. So definitely give it a shot. It's just be like a little short novel for you to page through. So it is a male-male romance with other plot mixed in, and I think that you will enjoy it. That is what I have for fandom. We already did the knitting, so this is where I say I hope you are doing well and stay safe and have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, depending on your time zone, and I will see you later.